I think we can all agree that when you're playing a game, the most important thing to take into consideration is the amount of fun you're having while playing. Bro, fuck double cover, just throw it up. Give me that! Let's fucking go! But there's a few other components besides enjoyment. Like, is a game visually appealing with great graphics? Or maybe does this game have a set of unique and interesting characters?
Holy crap, I'm in Fortnite!
You put your right foot in, right foot out.
Does the game have beautifully orchestrated music? Alright, obviously the examples that I showed are jokes, but those are definitely features you want to take into consideration when thinking about your favorite games of all time. But you also have to think about nostalgia for a game. Like if you played a game during your childhood, you're probably going to like it more than the average person. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it may dilute your opinion a little bit. On the flip side though, if you played a game now, not in your childhood, and still really enjoyed it, then that's just a testament to how good the game really was. Alright, let me stop yapping. Let me go through my list. These are my 10 favorite games of all time. There's going to be a few questionable ones in here, but again, that's sort of the nostalgia bias I was talking about earlier. Also, I really only had Nintendo and Xbox consoles when I was growing up, so my list is going to look like it was made by a 10-year-old. Anyways, let's go. Alright, for number 10 we got Minecraft. It's a very basic choice, but as you're going to see with a lot of these in the video, I really appreciate the primes of a game. And Minecraft is the king of primes. I know most of you can think of a 2-week time where you grinded a Minecraft world with your friends. I mean, what is better than a Minecraft world with the boys? The only problem is, it ends. After a few weeks, it just dies out, and then you're not playing Minecraft for another 7 months. That's why Minecraft isn't a little higher. It's not a consistent game to play anymore. And a lot of that has to do with us getting older, but that's just the reality. So I can't necessarily shit on Minecraft for that, so I'm still going to appreciate it a lot. I think what would be best right now is to go over each of the primes of Minecraft and what made it so great during those eras. I mean, not only were the games really fun during these eras, but these primes sort of revitalized the community and made it popular again. So let me break it down for you guys. Alright, Omni-Man, relax.
Let me break it down for you, Mark.
I thought that was funny in my eyes. Alright, let's actually break it down. Alright, obviously I feel like the first prime has to be the console release back in 2012. It was only on PC before this, so it kind of exploded. And for me at least, the second prime was when the Xbox One version came out back in like 2014. This was sort of bound to happen. I mean, it's a new version on a new console, everyone's gonna buy it. But then after a little bit, I feel like Minecraft went on a bit of a dry spell. I'd say from around 2015 to 2017, there were other multiplayer games that were taking Minecraft's player base. I mean, that was definitely the case for me. I was playing Fortnite and COD Black Ops 3 at this point. So Minecraft was left out of the spotlight a little bit because all of its players were going to fucking Fortnite Battle Royale.
Hello, Peter.
And it kind of stayed that way till those games fizzled out. However, when the pandemic hit, we saw the resurgence of Minecraft and a third prime. Everyone from like age 12 to 25 was playing this game again. We were so back because nobody could physically leave their houses. Playing Minecraft for 7 hours a day was how I was going to waste my time. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that little Minecraft retrospective, but let's just talk about the game in general. I mean, Minecraft's always going to have a special place in my heart. It's a generational game and one of the best multiplayer games to ever exist. I mean, it's Mr. Reliable. You need a game to sink your teeth into for a few weeks, Minecraft's got your back. We can't forget how peak the music is. This shit could easily make a grown man cry. I mean, who cooked in the studio? Okay, for number 9, I put Stardew Valley. Alright, you're probably thinking there's no way this guy just put Stardew Valley over Minecraft. I mean, personally, I just think Stardew Valley has a better gameplay loop and is more replayable than Minecraft. I know Minecraft has like infinitely generated worlds, but the one Stardew Valley world is just better. If you've never played this game before, you're probably thinking, oh, this is just like another laid-back farming simulator. Well, you'd be wrong, because this is the most stressful game I've ever played in my entire life. But in a good way. Alright, that's pretty overdramatic, considering 80% of the days just end up like this.
How long is this going to take?
But then there's actual days where it's really stressful. All your tasks sort of sync up with each other and you're scrambling all over the map. And this progression is really rewarding until you realize it's 2:30 a.m. and you're passed out on your front porch. This progression stems from the community center, which is your main goal. It's a very simple mechanic. You put items in bundles, and you get rewards back. So the game basically encourages you to progress and do more things. But at the same time, you're being rewarded for exploring. Alright, so let me give you guys an example. Let's say you wanted to complete the Adventurers bundle in the community center. All of these items can only be found in the deep parts of the mines. So the game's trying to push you in the right direction in a structured sort of way. But it doesn't feel forced because a lot of the rewards are really good. You get the greenhouse, access to the desert, and access to the quarry. The progression is really rewarding and it makes you want to play for longer amounts of time. And I kind of think that's what Minecraft gets wrong. I mean, obviously there's progression in Minecraft. You have to beat the Ender Dragon and get all your tools upgraded. But doing that over and over again can get really stale. Meanwhile, in Stardew Valley, I feel like there's many different ways you can progress through the game. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people disagreeing with that opinion, but anyways, let's just move on. Okay, for number 8, we got Wii Sports Resort. So I was debating between this and Mario Super Sluggers, but just out of pure variety, I chose this game. I mean, Mario Super Sluggers is just baseball. To be fair, just saying baseball makes it sound like it's a shitty game. It's a really fun game. I mean, look at this shit. So yeah, Mario Super Sluggers is a goated game, but Wii Sports Resort is the ultimate you can't go wrong sort of game. There's just so much variety to be had. There's like 12 different sports, and at least I'd say 10 of them are bangers. I mean, 12 is already a lot of sports on the surface, but where this game really shines is the sub-sports. Like if you pick air sports, there's the regular skydiving game, but then you also have the island flyover, which is personally one of my favorites. Very simple game. I mean, all you're doing is just flying around the island, collecting these little information eyes that give you little tidbits on monuments around the island. It's so simple, but it's just like really fun to fly around, and I don't know why, that's always been my favorite game. I feel like a lot of people will agree with me too. Another one of my favorite sports is basketball. I mean, the 3-on-3 is really fun, but the 3-point contest has always been my favorite. Again, such a simple idea, but it's still got to be one of my favorites because it's so addicting. When the remote decides to work. Hello? Hello? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god! Dude. I mean, that's kind of the name of this game, if I'm being honest. There's no complexing story, it's just good, solid fun. And sometimes that's really all you need in a game. Maybe this is my childhood bias talking, but I feel like it's gotta be up here. I mean, this is the one game you could just come back to infinitely. I mean, personally, I come back to this game like every few months, and A, it's because this game is awesome, but B, it's because this game sucks. Okay, coming in at number 7, we have Rocket League, and if I'm being really honest, Rocket League is so trash now. It's kind of been trash for a while. I mean, ever since Epic bought it, they've done nothing but give this game just infinite microtransactions. I mean, look at this item shop. It's just Fortnite with cars. What makes this worse is that there's actually Rocket League cars in Fortnite now. Ugh, it actually disappoints me how downhill this game's gone, but I'm still gonna love it. I mean, it's not totally their fault, considering that I've been playing since 2016. I was bound to lose interest, but they definitely could have given me more reasons to get back onto the game. Regardless, just like Minecraft, the prime of this game needs to be studied. And it all started with the little thing I like to call gambling. God, I loved crates. I loved spending hundreds of dollars on useless items with the small hope I get a black market mystery decal. Alright, obviously crates weren't the only thing that made the game fun, but I can't deny that trading and crate openings were a big part of this game's prime. I mean, the trading community was absolutely massive during this time. On Xbox, there's this feature to make clubs, and a lot of people made Rocket League trading clubs, which was really cool. I mean, this was supposed to be a secondary feature for the game. Rocket League was like, okay, you could buy some crates and get some cool items and maybe trade them with your friends. But somehow it turned into this entrepreneurial stock market. It was crazy. People were making good money. I just can't believe they took it all away from us. Alright, but everything I've talked about so far is just about the cosmetics. Let me actually get into the gameplay. So back in 2016, me and my brother were looking for a game to play, and we stumbled across Rocket League in the Microsoft Store, and we're like, you know what? Let's buy it. It's only 20 bucks. Let's see if this is any good. So we sat down at like 2 a.m. and started playing it, and we thought it was just the funniest thing ever. I mean, cars hitting a soccer ball was the most unheard of concept ever. And we were just dying. We woke up our parents because we were so damn loud. Then after that, we just kept playing. I mean, we weren't really any good, so we were just playing the 3-on-3 playlist, but over time, we started to get really good, and eventually we delved into the competitive playlist. And we just kept playing because the gameplay loop was really fun. It's a very simple game, but the mechanics are really hard to get good at, and it's really fun getting better and better. But I won't lie, it took a really long time to get good because the mechanics are really, really hard. So I was pretty shit for like the first 2 years. But instead of just telling you, let me show you my shitty clips. I mean, to be fair, it was a pretty nice save. It's just impossible to see it in 240p. That clip was from like 2017, so I guess that's a testament to how long the game's been good for. I mean, I've technically been playing this game for 8 years, and 4 or 5 of those was during its prime, so I have to appreciate it. And one more thing, the music in this game is absolutely fantastic. Alright, for number 6 we got Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I really think people took this game for granted. It is without a doubt the best COD we've gotten in the last 8 years. It was so ahead of its time. I mean, just look how vibrant the colors are in this game, and then go to this year's COD and look how sad and dried out the colors are. I get it's trying to do that whole ultra realism sort of thing, but COD was always meant to be an arcade shooter, and I think Black Ops 3 does this the best. I'm sure you guys are going to be like, what about Black Ops 2? It's also an arcade shooter, and it probably does things better than Black Ops 3. I mean, Black Ops 2 is pretty great, but if I'm being honest with you guys, I really didn't play Black Ops 2 during its prime. And I feel like at the end of the day, whatever COD you grew up playing the most is most likely going to be your favorite. I'm sure there's some 13-year-old out there that thinks Vanguard is the best Call of Duty ever made. My point is that this shit is subjective. Hell, the whole list is subjective. No one's going to agree with my opinions completely. Alright, let's backtrack a little. I feel like I'm losing sight of what I really wanted to talk about. Let's compare Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3 and see why I like Black Ops 3 so much more. Black Ops 3 might just have the best zombies experience in all of COD. I don't think that's a hot take either. I feel like most people will agree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, Black Ops 2 still has some of the greatest maps in all of COD history. Buried's pretty awesome, Mob of the Dead's great, and Origins is arguably a top 3 map. The only problem is that the other maps are complete fucking dog shit. If we take a look at Black Ops 3, every single one of the maps is playable, and 3 of them are arguably top 5 maps all time. And if that wasn't enough, almost 2 years after the game released, they dropped an 8-map DLC of original maps from previous games. And this sort of coincides with another aspect of what made this game so great. The zombies community was at its absolute peak during this time.
Alright, Dempsey, once more for old times.
Even after the main life cycle of this game died and Infinite Warfare released, people were still playing this game. At the end of 2016, rumors were speculating about a fabled DLC 5, and then in May of 2017, this happened.
A lot of talk in the community, and it's, it's so hard sometimes to really think about, what kind of topics to talk about.
It was actually like the craziest reveal ever. I remember being so hyped. There was months of speculation about this DLC 5, and then finally we got something. So many fan favorite maps came back in the DLC. Origins, Moon, Shangri-La, Ascension. It was insane. You had to be there to experience it. It was an insane time. Alright, that's enough about zombies. Let's actually move on to the other 2 game modes. Alright, there's no argument here. Black Ops 3's campaign is fucking horrible.
Outcome? Train go boom.
Alright, now this is where the game gets a little controversial. Multiplayer is very mixed between the audience, and obviously one of the biggest complaints is the supply drop system. What this meant was that a lot of the game's best guns were blocked through a paywall. I mean, yeah, it was annoying, but just like Rocket League, bro, I'm a gambler at heart. I loved opening supply drops. Shit was fucking goated. But yeah, it wasn't like this perfect multiplayer. Black Ops 2's was probably objectively better. But again, this is my childhood COD. The maps were fun and vibrant, the gunplay was really good, and the specialists were actually a really cool idea that I actually think they should bring back because it was so great. But yeah, I don't really think I need to explain myself anymore. I've really shown that I've loved this game, and it's definitely one of my favorites ever.
Train go boom.
Okay, for number 5, I put Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. So let me give a little bit of a backstory. I never actually played this game till I was like in middle school, but before that I was always a big fan of the original Paper Mario and Super Paper Mario. I really just loved the vibe those games gave off. They had a really cool art style, they were funny, and they were just overall really fun games. Once I was a little bit older, I started hearing about a game everyone was calling TTYD on YouTube, so I looked into it and realized that I'd missed a game in the series. So then I was like, fuck, I gotta buy this, dude. And this shit was not cheap to buy. It was like $70 on Amazon because it's like a rarity nowadays. But it was definitely worth it because I love this game so much. In my eyes, this is the game in the series that perfected the battle system. It's simple enough that like kids can obviously get a hang of it. I mean, it's Mario after all. But it's also really fleshed out, and you can get really creative when you take badges into consideration. In terms of world building, this game's probably the best in the series as well. Each chapter has its own unique locations and a bunch of new characters. Like, look how goated this fat Toad is. Bro's comedically huge. But yeah, there's so many new zany and random characters in this game that they really never brought back, but I kind of wish they did. Just in general, this game's really out there and unique, and I feel like they haven't brought that back in the past 3 Paper Marios. That's not to say the last few games haven't been good. They're just different than the originals. But it does seem like they're starting to acknowledge the originals because we are getting a remake for this game. Dude, I was so hyped for this announcement. I gotta show you guys.
No way! Tell me. Oh my god! No way! No way! Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god! No way. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. No way.
Okay, for number 4, I put The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Alright, now we're getting into the really good stuff. You know, I never actually played any Zelda games before Breath of the Wild. Actually, that's a lie. I played Ocarina of Time 3D for maybe an hour. But anyways, a few months after the Switch released, I went to GameStop and I found this game on pre-owned, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, let's buy it. And what a fucking decision that was. Oh my god, this game's amazing. This is one of those games that just feels good to play. It doesn't even matter what you're doing. You could be fighting random enemies, flying around, or doing whatever. And that's kind of the beauty of an open world game. It actively encourages you to go off the trail and do whatever you want. It's not like I hate linear games, just this game was such a breath of fresh air. It quite literally revolutionized the industry and it won Game of the Year in 2017. I mean, that's how good this game is. It's not perfect. I feel like we all can admit that. But the good heavily outweighs the bad. So let's talk about some of these good things. I think the shrines are a really great idea. I feel like running around in the overworld can get a little bit boring, so shrines sort of break up that monotony. There's a few different types of shrines though. The first shrine is a puzzle shrine, and this is basically using your brain to figure out certain puzzles. Then you have combat shrines, where you basically just fight a guardian and you get a reward for beating him. Most people aren't a fan of these because it's the same shit every time. I don't know, I think they're actually pretty fun. I mean, you get really good weapons out of them too. Finally, you have the blessing shrines. I mean, there's not really a shrine in here, it's just a reward, but these are usually attached to a shrine quest, and you have to do some puzzle in the overworld, and that makes the shrine appear. So the shrine quest is basically the shrine. So yeah, I like shrines a lot. I think they're nice little mini puzzles to do, and they make the map feel more alive. And that kind of contributes to my next topic, which is... It's pretty incredible that Breath of the Wild's atmosphere could feel so lonely, but also so alive. The majority of the map is quiet and peaceful. But the more you explore, the more you realize that there's still these little pockets of civilization remaining, even after Calamity Ganon, and all of these locations feel so inviting. Outside of these towns, literally everything is trying to murder you, and this makes it all the more rewarding when you actually do find these villages and towns. Everyone who doesn't like this game says the map is barren and empty. That argument has some merit, but the apocalyptic vibe of the game is kind of what adds to the immersion. And the result is a beautifully crafted map and an amazing game. If you've never played this game before, you need to play it. Just talking about the game gets me pumped. I mean, this game is fucking insane. Incredible visuals, an amazing combat system, and one of the best video game experiences you will ever experience in your entire fucking life. Damn. How the hell do I follow that up? Just made like the most epic montage for a once-in-a-lifetime game. I mean, surely there's never going to be another game like that. Holy shit, they've done it again. Coming in at number 3, we have The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We had to wait a long time for this game, but the wait was definitely worth it. Dude, the hype and build-up around this game was insane. When that third trailer dropped, everyone was losing their minds. I mean, for the gameplay, but also because of the... They didn't really show that much in the first 2 trailers, so the third trailer they went all out and it was crazy. When I finally got my hands on this game, man, it was something else. It had a midnight release, and I specifically remember not getting off until I completed the tutorial island, and that was at like 3:30 a.m. I feel like there was a new idea thrown at you like every 2 seconds in this game. I just kept saying to myself, this is insane. You could say a lot of that's the day one hype, but months later I still feel that way. There's just so much to do in this game, and more stuff doesn't necessarily correlate to a better game, but what's here is amazing. And I think it surpasses Breath of the Wild. It fixes a lot of Breath of the Wild's problems, and I just think it's a more enjoyable game. I mean, when I say it like that, it makes it sound like I hated Breath of the Wild, but they're both amazing, incredible games. Alright, just to plead my case, I'm going to go a little more in depth on why I like this game a little bit better than Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild was all about doing whatever the fuck you wanted, but Tears of the Kingdom takes that to the next step, and that's where the new abilities come in. Alright, the biggest one obviously being Ultra Hand. Okay, it's just like Magnesis from Breath of the Wild, except you could attach things to it. First you're like, oh, this is pretty cool, I can make stuff go up in the air, that's pretty sick. Then you're like, oh my god, I could attach this to this rail and make a little zip line for the ball, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you're like, oh, I could fling this, do a little catapult, that's pretty sick. Then at a certain point, you're making F-14 fighter jets and you're dropping nukes on enemies. So yeah, you can make whatever the hell you want, anything goes in this game as long as your mind can think of something. But that doesn't necessarily penalize the people who aren't as creative. Like, that is probably the best thing I've ever made in this game, but the game doesn't necessarily penalize you for not being able to build these crazy things. There's different alternative methods to every single puzzle. Alright, let's take a look at an example. So in this shrine, what they want you to do is take the ice, slide it down the ramp, and hit the target all the way in the back. If you're creative enough though, you could just take a bomb arrow, launch it 40 yards down the field, and cheese the puzzle. It's a pretty shitty example, but the point still stands. The game does a really good job of encouraging you to be creative. Speaking of creativity, I feel like nobody, myself included, knew how big the depths were going to be. Before the game launched, all the trailers just hyped up the Sky Islands, and if I'm being honest, they're kind of underwhelming. It's one of the few issues I have with the game. There's only like a handful of Sky Islands, and many of them are carbon copies of each other. The best Sky Island is literally the Great Sky Island, which is just the tutorial island. Alright, we're not here to shit talk the game, so let's talk about how sick the depths are. Again, since I had no idea about the depths before the game came out, I was pleasantly surprised to see how much it had to offer. It essentially doubled the size of the map. To be fair, the depths aren't as filled as the surface, but there's still so many cool and interesting places to explore down there. Whenever I'd get bored of the overworld, the depths acted as a nice refresher because of how different your playstyle is down there. It feels much more dangerous. There's enemies everywhere and they're all much stronger because when you take damage from them, you can't heal unless you have specific heals. But this difficulty spike translates to a more rewarding experience because of how much cool shit's down there. It's the best place to farm Zonite, among a shit ton of chests and materials. Not to mention, it's the only place to get non-decayed weapons, which when fused make some of the best weapons in the game. I like the depths so much that I 100%ed it before the Sky and Overworld. It's kind of insane that like 1/3 of the game we didn't even know about, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Alright, let's wrap this up. All in all, Tears of the Kingdom takes the engine, mechanics, and world of Breath of the Wild, and improves upon it in just about every single way. It's definitely one of my favorite games ever, and who knows, maybe it'll beat out numbers 2 and 1 in the future. So let's move on and find out what those are. Alright, for number 2, we've got the original Paper Mario from the Nintendo 64. I know I talk so much about how great the sequel is, how it perfected the battle system, but this is where the childhood nostalgia comes in for me. This game is the ultimate throwback. Back in like 2010, Me and my brother found this game on the Wii's Virtual Console, and we thought that it looked pretty fun. And we were right. It's a little more on the simpler side than its sequel, but in a way it kind of makes it more charming. That doesn't necessarily mean that the game's bland. All the worlds are really fun and vibrant. Its 8 chapters are all really great in my opinion. Meanwhile, in T2ID, there's a few chapters that are just eh. In like half of them, there's either fetch quests or backtracking. There's a lot of creativity in T2ID's chapters, but after a first playthrough, a lot of them can get a little tiring. Like chapter 6, you aren't doing a lot of fighting, you're just on a train solving a mystery. Once you play it through the first time, the train chapter can feel a little repetitive, whereas the chapters in the original feel way more replayable for me. They also feel so distinct though. They all have this sort of vibe that's really hard to explain, so it's better if I show you guys. I feel like the music in this game does a really great job of setting the tone and making the chapters feel more alive. A lot of that has to do with the N64 sound font, and it just emits such a vibey feeling. So the song you guys are listening to right now is played when you're on Shiver Mountain. It emits many different feelings. It feels cold, but also lonely in a way. It feels like you're really far from civilization, because you are. You're climbing a mountain nobody's been on in eons, and it's just an absolute banger. Alright, let's look at another one. Again, same thing. That N64 sound font, and it just sounds so vibey. You can probably guess what area this is based on the music. And that's a good thing, because the music's supposed to complement the area. So you're probably thinking, this sounds very heavenly, and you'd be right, because this plays when you're up in the clouds. And the music fits the area perfectly. It's not going to be this fast-paced rock and roll or whatever. It's going to be a nice, relaxing, peaceful sort of music. So Paper Mario 64 is one of my favorite games ever made, but is my nostalgia affecting its ranking on this list? 100%, and that's alright. Everyone has that childhood game, and it's good to have it because it reminds you of being a kid again, and every time you play it, you're transported back to that time. I do still think it'd be on this list if I played it when I was older. It does a lot of things better than TTUID, even though it was the game that came before it. So yeah, that's about it. It's time to lock in for number 1. But before we do that, we need to talk about some honorable mentions. Let's go. Alright, let's go through these nice and quickly. I'll say a little blurb about each one and then move on. Fortnite. It's actually disturbing how many hours I have on this game. The prime of this game was absolutely legendary. But the problem is now it's fucking horrible. I can't put a game on here that no longer technically exists. Obviously Fortnite still exists, but the prime that I really loved playing is no longer playable. Pokemon Emerald. This is 100% my favorite Pokemon game. It's really fun. I really like the region. Everyone complains about the water, but I think it's the best generation and nothing's come close since. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is the best Mario Kart we've ever gotten. I mean, 96 courses is insane. Best character roster, best graphics. You really can't go wrong with this game. Super Paper Mario. This game could easily be on the list, but I didn't want 3 of the same series on the list. Also, I played this game recently, and it's not as good as I remember, but it's still legendary. Okay, we've made it to the end game, everyone. It's time. Here we go. Number 1. So when I was making the list, I had 11 games that I wanted to put on it. But as you know, this is a 10-spot list. So then that got me thinking, what if I consolidated Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom into one spot on the list? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that they are 2 completely separate games. It'd be a dishonor to not cast them as their own unique entities. But then I realized that 2 of the games on my list could fit that description. Technically separate games, but the second one acts as a continuation of the first, and both are 2 of the highest rated video games of all time. If it's not obvious what games I'm talking about yet, sit tight, and here we go. I just can't decide which game's better. Coming in at number 1, we have Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. When I was making the list, I kept flip-flopping the order of these games. At first I was like, the original was slightly better. It took Mario, threw him into the endless abyss of space, and perfected 3D platforming. Then like a second later, I'd switch up saying Galaxy 2 took the best parts of the first game and made a completely new adventure with its own set of creative ideas. I genuinely could not make up my mind. Then I was like, wait, this is literally my list. I could do whatever I want with it. Nobody actually cares. So I put them together. Saying one game is too similar to another is usually an insult, but when the first game is considered by many to be one of the best games of all time, it's a compliment. I mean, what's not to love? It's Mario, and Nintendo, quite frankly, at their best. Alright, since these games are at number 1, I'm going to go super in depth and break down how insanely good these games are in 3 different categories. I mean, it's quite simple why these games are so amazing. Both of them are just so much fun. A lot of that stems from the developers' creativity, as well as courage to step out of the box and do some crazy wacky shit. Every galaxy in both games have a really unique set of ideas and theme, and those themes are translated through the visuals, but also the gameplay and mechanics. There are just a shitload of cool ass gimmicks in both games, but let's take a look at Galaxy 1 first. One of my favorite levels in the first game is the Toy Time Galaxy. It takes a silly theme and just rolls with it, and the result is just a really fun stage. I also really like the power-up it introduces, the Spring Mushroom. The thing is, it's not a typical power-up. Instead of making you automatically stronger, it limits the control of your movement, but allows you to jump higher. This not only generates some tricky platforming, but adds to be a nice change of pace. As for the second game, this creativity is only enhanced further, and a lot of that is thanks to the addition of Yoshi. Yoshi basically acts as a bunch of new power-ups because he can eat a variety of different fruit that all do a bunch of different things, and this makes for a lot of great stages that make this their main mechanic. Even without Yoshi though, the second game brings some really great new power-ups, the Drill and Cloud being 2 of my favorites. The games just throw so many new ideas at you, and this can be done even without any of the power-ups. The gameplay is just so fast-paced and fun that regular levels without any of these added gimmicks are still really great. And that's partly due to the mechanics of these games. Mario controls like a dream in both games, and the space-like physics only enhance this further. So even with all these crazy new ideas, power-ups, and mechanics, what remains is incredibly polished, final products that are nearly perfect. And another great aspect is that these games are so replayable. Everybody obviously knows that the first playthrough of any game is always the best, but when a game is able to recapture a large percentage of that enjoyment, you know it's a special game, and both of these games can do that for me. I come back to these games really often. I've beaten both games at least 4 or 5 times by now. When games are just that special, you feel you almost have to replay them. They never get stale even after growing up and ignoring nostalgia. And that's another thing that makes these games so incredible. They aren't necessarily cakewalks. When I was replaying them for this video, I still found myself dying a lot. They both have the perfect levels of difficulty in my opinion. It's doable for like little kids, but still challenging for adults, especially once you beat the games and do some of the post-game content. And that's the sort of thing that makes replays so appealing. Just because you beat it once doesn't mean it'll be too easy the second time around. And the gameplay is so fresh that it won't feel stale replaying it. These games are timeless classics, and I will continue to replay them for as long as I'm alive, really. I really think that these games have the 2 best soundtracks in the history of video games. I mean, holy fuck. They did not have to go this hard for games aimed towards kids. But they did anyway, and I'm so glad that they did. They're such varied soundtracks too. All the songs can be categorized into 3 separate groups really. So first you have the typical upbeat, zany Mario songs. These songs do a really great job of emphasizing like a typical Galaxy level. Levels that are usually on the tropical, whimsical, or really random side. They're bangers, but not the most special of songs in these soundtracks. Here, let's listen to one more. Then you have these depressing, spacey sort of songs. These songs are on the slower side, but they complement the galaxies they play in. They almost remind me of the songs playing in Breath of the Wild that match that depressing atmosphere. They don't sound too similar, but they both match the quiet atmospheres of their respective games. These have absolutely no business being in a Mario game. These songs are the epic, fully orchestrated bangers. My favorite part about these games is how dramatic and cinematic they can be, and a lot of that is thanks to the music. I do not know how they did it. They made two perfect, amazingly, beautifully crafted games. These are without a shadow of a doubt my two favorite games ever created. There are no other games on the planet that get me this hype. These games are just the embodiment of fun, wonder, and excitement. There is never a dull moment in either of these games, and to top it all off, they're accompanied by two of the greatest soundtracks to ever grace our fucking ears.